The morning sun cast long shadows across the busy docking bay of Kepler Station. Jake Martinez crawled out from under the belly of a large alien ship, his work clothes covered in grease and oil. He wiped his dirty hands on a rag and looked up at the blue-skinned alien captain who stood waiting with his arms crossed. Captain Velnash was tall and thin, with scales that shimmered in the artificial light. His 3 crew members stood behind him, all looking down at Jake with the same expression of disgust. They whispered to each other in their own language, but Jake could understand every word they said. "Look at this dirty human," Velnash said, to his friends, pointing at Jake. "See how he crawls on the ground like an animal. This is what humans do best, fix things for better species like us." One of the crew members laughed. "I heard humans live in small, dark rooms near the garbage areas. They probably eat scraps and wear the same clothes for weeks." Jake continued working on the ship's air system, saying nothing. He had heard this kind of talk many times before. Aliens often came to the docking bay and treated human workers badly. They thought humans were not smart or important. Lisa Brown, Jake's work partner, looked up from her computer tablet. Her face showed anger, but Jake made a small hand signal that meant, "Stay quiet." He had learned that fighting with rude customers only made things worse. The 3rd crew member joined the conversation. "I bet this grease monkey has never been inside a nice restaurant or hotel. He probably does not even know how to use a fork properly." Velnash made a sound that was supposed to be laughter. It sounded like metal scraping against stone. "You are right, my friend. While we stay in expensive hotels and make deals worth millions of credits, these humans crawl around fixing our machines. They should be happy we let them work for us." Jake finished connecting the last wire and closed the panel. He stood up slowly, his back sore from bending over for 2 hours. The atmospheric processor was now working perfectly. Without it, the alien ship would slowly fill with poison gas. "Your air system is fixed," Jake said in a calm voice. "The cost is 800 credits. Velnash's eyes grew wide with surprise. 800 credits? That is too much money for such easy work. You should pay us for letting you touch our beautiful ship." Jake pulled out his payment device. "The price is fair. Your air system was broken badly. Without my repair, you and your crew would be dead in 6 hours." The captain's scales turned a darker blue, which Jake knew meant he was angry. But Velnash also knew that Jake was telling the truth. The ship's computer had been showing danger warnings for hours before they landed. "Fine," Velnash said, transferring the credits from his account to Jake's device. "But this is robbery. On my world, humans would be arrested for charging so much." Jake put the payment device back in his pocket. "On your world, there probably are not many people who know how to fix quantum atmospheric processors." This made Velnash even more angry. He did not like being reminded that the dirty human knew more about his ship than he did. The captain looked around the docking bay, seeing other humans working on different ships. Some were welding metal, others were checking engines, and a few were loading cargo. "Tell me something, human," Velnash said with a mean smile. "Have you ever stayed at the Grand Celestial Hotel? Of course you have not. Only important beings can afford to sleep in such a place." The Grand Celestial Hotel was famous across the galaxy. It was the most expensive and beautiful hotel on Kepler Station. Rich aliens from many worlds came there to do business and enjoy luxury. The hotel had everything: fine restaurants, entertainment rooms, gardens with real plants, and suites that cost more per night than most humans made in a year. Jake's work partner Lisa made a small sound of surprise. She knew something that the aliens did not know, but she kept quiet as Jake had taught her. "The Grand Celestial Hotel," Jake said, still wiping his hands on the dirty rag. "Yes, I know that place." Velnash laughed again. "You know it? Maybe you have seen it from the outside when you walk past on your way to the cheap human quarters. But inside? Never. They would not let someone like you pass the front door. The rooms there cost more money than you make in 5 years," added one of the crew members. "They have servants who are cleaner than you are right now." Jake nodded slowly. "It is a nice place, very well built, good air systems, strong walls, comfortable beds." "How would you know about the air systems?" Velnash asked suspiciously. I know about all air systems, Jake replied. It is my job. The captain shook his head. Your job is to fix broken things for your betters. Do not pretend you know about high-class establishments. You probably have never even eaten food that costs more than 10 credits. Jake finished packing his tools into his metal box. Lisa helped him carry the heavy equipment back to their work area. The aliens watched them go, still talking among themselves about how stupid and dirty humans were. See how they walk away without saying anything? Velnash said to his crew. Humans know their place. They fix our ships and keep their mouths shut. This is how it should be. But as Jake walked away, he was not thinking about the insults. He was thinking about the broken air system he had just repaired, and about the many other ships that would need fixing before the day was over. He was also thinking about a dinner meeting he had scheduled for that evening, and about some important business decisions he needed to make. Most of all, he was thinking about how wrong the aliens were about humans. But he did not tell them this. Jake had learned long ago that some lessons were better taught through actions than words. 3 days after the ship repair, Captain Velnash walked into the Grand Celestial Hotel like he owned the place. The hotel was the most beautiful building on Kepler Station. It sat in the highest part of the station, where only rich and important people could go. The walls were made of white marble that sparkled like stars. Plants grew in floating gardens that hung in the air without touching the ground. Soft music played from hidden speakers, and the air smelled like expensive flowers. Velnash wore his best uniform. His blue scales were polished until they shined, and he carried himself like a king. Behind him walked his 3 crew members, all trying to look as important as their captain. They had just finished a big trade deal and had plenty of money to spend. The lobby was full of wealthy aliens from many different worlds. Some had fur, others had feathers, and a few looked like giant insects. They all wore expensive clothes and jewelry. Human servants moved quietly between them, bringing drinks and carrying bags. Velnash walked up to the front desk where a young human woman was working. Her name tag said Amy Clark. She looked up at him with a polite smile, but Velnash could see in her eyes that she did not really want to help him. I am Captain Velnash, he announced in a loud voice so everyone in the lobby could hear. I need your best room. Money is no problem for someone like me. Amy looked at her computer screen and typed something. She waited a few seconds, then looked back at Velnash. Her smile was still polite, but now it looked fake. I am very sorry, Captain Velnash, she said. We are completely full for the next 2 weeks. We have no rooms available at all. Velnash's eyes grew wide with shock. His scales turned darker blue, which meant he was getting angry. That is impossible, he shouted, hitting the marble counter with his clawed hand. The sound echoed through the quiet lobby. Other guests turned to look at him. Do you know who I am? Velnash continued yelling. I am a successful trader. I have ships and money and important friends. I demand that you find me a room right now. Amy's smile disappeared. Sir, please lower your voice. This is a quiet establishment. I understand you are upset, but shouting will not create rooms that do not exist. This is discrimination, Velnash accused her. You humans hate non-humans. You are keeping me out because I am not human like you. That is not true, sir, Amy replied calmly. We serve guests of all species equally. Let me call my manager to speak with you. Amy pressed a button on her desk and spoke quietly into a small device. Within 2 minutes, a well-dressed human man walked over to them. He was older than Amy, with gray hair and kind eyes. His suit looked expensive, and he moved with confidence. Good afternoon, Captain Velnash, the man said, offering his hand for a handshake. I am Bill Thompson, the general manager of this hotel. I understand there has been some confusion about rooms. Velnash ignored the offered hand. Your worker says you have no rooms. I think she is lying to me because I am not human. Bill looked at his tablet computer and read something on the screen. His face showed no emotion, but his voice became cooler. Actually, Captain, I have some interesting information here. 3 days ago, you were recorded saying some very rude things about human workers. What does that have to do with hotel rooms? Velnash demanded. Well, Bill continued. Our security cameras record everything that happens in the docking bays. We use this information to learn about our potential guests. According to the recording, you called humans dirty animals and said we crawl on the ground like beasts. Velnash's crew members looked uncomfortable. They remembered saying those things, but they had not known anyone was recording them. You also said, Bill read from his tablet, that humans should be grateful to serve superior species like yours, and you laughed about how humans live in garbage areas and eat scraps. I was just talking, Velnash said, but his voice was not as confident as before. The owner of this hotel saw the recording, Bill explained. He was very specific about your reservation status. He said, and I quote, anyone who thinks humans are animals can find somewhere else to sleep. Velnash tried to look brave, but inside he was starting to worry. The owner? Some rich human businessman, I suppose. Let me talk to him directly. I will explain that it was just a misunderstanding. Bill almost smiled. I am afraid the owner is very busy right now. He is currently working in the maintenance section of the station, something about fixing the life support systems. Very important work, as you can imagine. Working in maintenance? Velnash was confused. Why would a hotel owner do manual labor? He says someone has to keep the air flowing and the lights working, Bill replied. He believes all work is important work. Velnash did not understand. Rich people did not fix machines. They paid poor people to do that kind of work. What kind of businessman works with his hands like a common laborer? The kind who built this hotel from nothing, Bill answered. The kind who designed every system in this building. The kind who still gets his hands dirty when something needs fixing. The alien captain felt confused and frustrated. Nothing was making sense. Hotel owners were supposed to sit in offices and count money, not crawl around in maintenance tunnels. I still demand a room, Velnash said, but his voice was quieter now. Bill closed his tablet and looked directly at the alien. Captain, I am sorry, but the owner's instructions were very clear. However, there are several other hotels on the station that might have rooms available. The Starport Inn offers basic accommodations at reasonable prices. Velnash knew the Starport Inn. It was where poor travelers stayed. The rooms were small and ugly and the food was terrible. It was not a place for someone important like him. This is not over, Velnash threatened as he turned to leave. I will find your owner and straighten this out. Bill watched the aliens walk out of the lobby. Good luck with that, Captain, he said quietly to himself. Jake Martinez was eating his lunch in the maintenance break room when his emergency communicator started beeping loudly. The sound meant something serious was happening somewhere on the station. He put down his sandwich and pressed the button. To answer, Jake, we need you right now, came the voice of Pete Davis, his supervisor. Big emergency. The passenger ship Stellar Crown is in trouble. Their engines are failing and they have over 2,000 people on board. Jake stood up quickly, grabbing his tool belt. What kind of engine trouble? Their main drive core is going crazy. The power readings are jumping up and down like a wild animal. If it completely fails, everyone on that ship will die. Jake was already running toward his repair shuttle. How much time do we have? 4 hours before their backup systems stop working. After that, no air, no heat, no gravity. It will be a floating tomb. The Stellar Crown was the biggest passenger ship that visited Kepler Station. It was like a flying city, with restaurants, shops, theaters, and luxury rooms. Rich people from many worlds traveled on it to do business and see the galaxy. Today it carried diplomats going to an important trade meeting. Jake called his team on the radio. Lisa, Tony, Sue, emergency repair job. Meet me at Shuttle Bay 7 in 2 minutes. Lisa Brown, Tony Garcia, and Sue Palmer were Jake's best mechanics. They had worked together for years and could fix almost anything. Within minutes, all 4 humans were in the repair shuttle flying toward the huge passenger ship. As they got closer, Jake could see that the Stellar Crown was in bad shape. Its lights were flickering, and strange blue sparks were jumping around. Its engine section. The ship was trying to send out distress signals, but even those were weak and broken. Captain Zexkoth met them at the airlock when they boarded. He was from the Altair system, tall and thin with silver skin and large black eyes. His uniform was covered in sweat, and his hands were shaking with worry. Thank the stars you are here, Zexkoth said, his voice full of fear. My chief engineer says the quantum resonance chamber is destroying itself. We have never seen anything like this before. Jake looked at the readings on his portable scanner. The numbers were all wrong. Someone had put something into the ship's systems that did not belong there. This is not an accident, he told the captain. Someone put a device in your engine to make it break. Sabotage? Captain Zexkoth could not believe it. But who would do such a terrible thing? Jake studied the complex patterns on his screen. Could be space pirates wanting to steal your ship. Or maybe someone wanted to stop the trade meeting from happening. He looked up at the worried captain. The good news is I can fix it. The bad news is it will be very difficult and dangerous. The Itao engine room was huge, filled with machines that hummed and sparkled with energy. The quantum resonance chamber was in the center, a massive metal sphere covered in pipes and wires. It was the heart of the ship, turning space itself into power for the engines. Jake's team got to work immediately. Lisa connected her computers to the ship's systems to track the problem. Tony and Sue started taking apart the damaged sections to find the sabotage device. Jake crawled into the tight spaces around the resonance chamber, looking for the source of the trouble. Word spread quickly through the ship that human mechanics were trying to save everyone. Passengers came to watch through the big windows that looked into the engine room. Many of them had never seen humans work before. They expected to see primitive creatures using simple tools. Instead, they saw Jake moving through the complex machinery like he had built it himself. His hands moved, fast and sure, connecting wires and adjusting controls that most aliens could not even understand. The other humans worked just as skillfully, like they were part of one big machine. Among the watching crowd were several blue-scale diplomats from the Zephyr system. One of them was Ambassador Nexville, who was Captain Velnash's cousin. He watched Jake work with growing amazement. Look at how that human moves, Nexville said to his assistant. He understands those quantum systems better than our own engineers. I thought humans were only good for simple manual labor. His assistant nodded in agreement. The stories we hear about humans must be wrong. This one has knowledge that takes decades to learn. Jake had been working for 3 hours straight. His clothes were soaked with sweat and his hands were cut from sharp metal edges. But he never stopped moving, never gave up. He had found the sabotage device, a small box hidden deep in the ship's power system. It was designed to slowly destroy the engines while making it look like an accident. Got it, Jake called out to his team. The disruptor is connected to the main power flow. When I remove it, the whole system will try to restart at once. Lisa, I need you to control the power levels. Tony and Sue, watch for overloads in sections 4 and 7. Ready when you are, Lisa replied, her fingers dancing over her control tablet. Jake carefully disconnected the sabotage device. Immediately, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. The lights went out for a few seconds, then came back on. The engine room filled with the sound of machinery coming back to life. Power levels stabilizing, Lisa reported. Quantum resonance back to normal parameters. Captain Zexkoth's voice came over the ship's communication system. All passengers, this is your captain. The emergency is over. Our engines are working perfectly thanks to the human repair team. We will arrive at our destination on schedule. A cheer went up from the passengers watching in the engine room. Many of them were aliens who had never respected humans before, but now they clapped and cheered for Jake and his team. Ambassador Nexville pushed through the crowd to shake Jake's hand. You have saved 2,000 lives today, including many important diplomats. How can we ever thank you? Jake packed his tools back into his box, tired but satisfied. No thanks needed. Just doing my job. Glad everyone is safe. As the human repair team prepared to leave, news of their heroic work was already spreading across the galaxy through the ship's communication systems. The story of the human mechanic who saved a luxury liner full of important aliens would soon reach every corner of known space. But Jake did not know about his growing fame. He was already thinking about the next repair job waiting back at the station. News of Jake's heroic repair spread like fire through Kepler Station. Every communication channel carried the story of the human mechanic who saved 2,000 lives on the luxury liner Stellar Crown. Alien news reporters from many worlds wanted to interview him, but Jake had already returned to his regular work in the docking bay. Ambassador Nexville made sure to include Jake's heroic actions in his official report to the Zephyr government. He wrote about how the human had worked for hours without rest, using knowledge that most aliens did not possess. The report would be read by important leaders across the galaxy, including Captain Vel Nash's family. Meanwhile, Captain Vel Nash was having the worst week of his life. After being turned away from the Grand Celestial Hotel, he had tried to get rooms at 6 other hotels on the station. Each time he was told they were completely full. Even the cheap hotels near the cargo docks claimed to have no space. What Vel Nash did not know was that word of his rude behavior had spread among the hotel workers. They all talked to each other, and they all remembered how he had called humans dirty animals and primitive creatures. None of them wanted to serve someone who treated their species so badly. Vel Nash was now staying on his own ship, sleeping in the small captain's cabin and eating food from emergency supplies. His crew was getting angry because they wanted to enjoy their shore leave in comfortable hotels. But everywhere they went, they were told the same thing: no rooms available. On the 4th day, Vel Nash swallowed his pride and returned to the docking bay where he had first met Jake. His ship's air system was acting up again, making strange noises and producing bad smells. He hoped the human mechanic could fix it quickly so he could leave this terrible station forever. He found Jake working under a small cargo ship, sparks flying as he welded broken metal. The human looked exactly the same as before. Dirty clothes, greasy hands, and sweat on his face. It was hard to believe this was the same person everyone was calling a hero. "Human," Vel Nash called out, trying to keep his voice polite. "I need your help again." Jake slid out from under the cargo ship and stood up, wiping his hands on a rag. "What seems to be the problem, Captain?" "My ship's air system is broken again. The atmosphere is becoming toxic, and my crew is getting sick." Jake walked over to examine Vel Nash's ship. He pulled out his scanner and checked the readings. After a few minutes, he shook his head with a disappointed expression. "This is not the same problem as before," Jake explained. "Someone tried to fix your air system after I repaired it. They did not understand how it worked and made it much worse." Vel Nash's blue scales flushed darker with embarrassment. I thought any mechanic could handle such work." "Who did you take it to?" Jake asked. "A Rigelian engineer at the other end of the station. He said human repairs were primitive and that he could improve them." Jake sighed and shook his head. "Captain, the atmospheric processor I installed uses advanced human technology. It is more efficient than standard galactic designs. Your Rigelian engineer probably tried to upgrade it to conventional specifications without understanding how it worked." Jake opened the ship's maintenance panel and showed Vel Nash the damage inside. Wires were melted, circuits were burned out, and some parts were completely missing. He removed half the components I installed and replaced them with cheaper parts that do not work together. "But he said human technology was inferior," Vel Nash protested weakly. "Human technology is different," Jake replied as he began working to fix the damage. "We design systems to be efficient and reliable, not just to follow standard patterns." As Jake worked, Vel Nash found himself watching with new eyes. The human's movements were quick and confident. He seemed to understand the ship's systems better than Vel Nash himself did. Every action had a purpose. Every decision was correct. "Tell me," Vel Nash said hesitantly, "how does a simple mechanic learn so much about advanced systems?" Jake continued, working as he spoke. "I have a degree in quantum engineering from the Mars Institute of Technology. I also studied atmospheric systems, power generation, and ship design. I hold certifications for 19 different types of spacecraft. But why do you work as a manual laborer if you have such education?" "I work as a mechanic because I enjoy solving problems and helping people. There is nothing wrong with working with your hands. Someone has to keep all these ships flying safely." Vel Nash was quiet for several minutes, thinking about what Jake had said. Finally, he asked the question that had been bothering him since his visit to the hotel. "The Grand Celestial Hotel. You said you knew that place. How does a mechanic know about the most expensive hotel on the station?" Jake finished reconnecting the last circuit and closed the maintenance panel. He tested the air system and it began working perfectly. Then he turned to face Velnash directly. "I know the Grand Celestial Hotel because I designed it," Jake said, simply. "I built the atmospheric systems, the power networks, the gravity generators, and the communication arrays. My company constructed the entire building." Velnash stared at Jake in complete shock. "Your company?" Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. He handed it to the stunned alien captain. The card was simple white plastic with black letters that read, "Jake Martinez, Chief Executive Officer, Martinez Engineering and Construction Corporation. I own 43 hotels and space stations across this sector of the galaxy," Jake continued. "My company has built habitats for over 20 million people. We specialize in life support systems that keep beings like you alive in the vacuum of space." Velnash looked at the business card, then at Jake, then back at the card. His mind could not process what he was hearing. The dirty human mechanic was one of the wealthiest and most powerful beings in known space. "I do not understand," Velnash whispered. "If you own hotels and construction companies, why do you work as a mechanic?" Jake smiled for the first time since they had met. "Because this is where the real work happens. You can own 1,000 buildings, but if you do not understand how they work, you cannot keep them safe. Besides, I like fixing things. I like helping people get home safely." Velnash felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. "Why are you helping me after the way I treated you?" "Because that is what humans do," Jake replied. "We help each other survive out here among the stars, all of us. Human, Zephyrian, Altarian, everyone. We are all just trying to make our way in a big, dangerous universe." Jake started packing his tools. "Your ship is fixed now. No charge this time." He paused and looked at Velnash seriously. "And Captain, there is a suite available at the Grand Celestial Hotel if you want it. Everyone deserves a safe place to rest." As Velnash walked back to his ship, he carried with him a completely new understanding of humanity. The species he had mocked as primitive animals were actually the builders and maintainers of galactic civilization itself. And somewhere in the maintenance tunnels of Kepler Station, Jake Martinez continued his work, keeping the lights on and the air flowing for everyone who called the stars their home.